Hello fellow Minecraft addicts, Jarbo here. Today we are going to be continuing in our basic Redstone series, and today we're going to talk about clocks. So let me flip around here and we'll take a look at this. So in order to make a clock, you get a crafting table, you get 4 pieces of gold, you put them in the crafting table like that, put a redstone in the middle, and you get a clock. No, wait, never mind. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just kidding. We're talking about redstone clocks. And the first one we're going to talk about is a torch repeater clock. So let's look at this and see what's going to happen here. So when we unpower this block, it's going to unpower this piece of redstone, which is going to unpower this block, which is going to turn that torch back on. It's going to power this block, which is going to turn the repeater on, which is going to power this block, which is going to turn the torch on, or the dust on, which is going to turn the torch off, and over and over and over again. And so if we turn this on, we can see that this is putting out a pulse so fast that the lamp can't turn on and off. If I'm not mistaken, that makes this a 1-tick pulse. So then if we change this to 2, now we have a 2-tick pulse and the lamp can turn on and off. And we can adjust this to 3 and it's a little bit slower. We can go right down to 4 and it's even slower. So this is somewhat adjustable depending on your needs, and you have the output here. To turn it on and off, you just need to power this block continuously and it shuts the whole thing down. Like I said, it's super simple to build. 3 solid blocks in this configuration, this Y configuration here, or U configuration. A repeater facing into this block. A torch on the side of this block, and a piece of redstone dust. You don't need all this. That's just an indicator of what it's doing. As you can see here, it's working just with those 6 blocks, and the 7th is the lever. Here we have an Etho hopper clock. And the way this works is you have 2 hoppers facing into each other. Inside the hoppers you have a number of items, and the number of items will determine the speed that this switches back and forth. Right now it's locked because we have a constant redstone signal going to this piston, which is extending it. And even though this comparator is putting power to this block, this piston can't extend because this one is already extended and it can't move an extended piston. So if we were to unpower this block, this piston would retract, this piston would extend, the redstone block would move to this side, lock that hopper, and this hopper would start to drain its items into that hopper. Once this hopper runs out of items, it's going to depower this block, which is going to depower this piston, which is going to allow this piston to extend again and back and forth. Again, the timing is controlled by the items in the hoppers. The comparators read the hoppers and power the blocks behind them, which extend the pistons back and forth. Now, the way we can use this signal, there's a couple different ways. One, we can take a signal directly off of the redstone block that will alternate back and forth. Doing this, it's very hard to get the signal, the 2 outputs on one side, but you could come around to this side and take your second redstone signal off this side, and then they would be an alternating signal. When one is powered, the other one is not. You can also take a signal off of the comparator here. The thing with that is that's going to be a momentary off signal. As you can see, let this drain the items across, and just for a moment this is going to, so it's going to put out a very long pulse with a very short off pulse. And then the opposite is true for this signal. It has an almost equal on and off pulse. This one has a much longer on pulse with a very short off pulse. And that brings us to our third clock here. And this is I kind of designed this myself. I'm sure it's been designed before, but this specific one I came up with on my own. And so what we have here is we have 4 pistons, kind of in the same arrangement as a trident killer, 4 redstone torches on the bottom, 4 repeaters facing into a piece of redstone dust, and the redstone dust is going to wrap around and power the piston that this block is in front of when this repeater gets power. And the way this works, let me turn it on, is it just moves the block around, and as you can see, when the block is here, it powers this repeater, which powers this piston, and then it pushes the block across, it loses power, and it just moves around and around and around. And as you can see by our lamps here, no 2 lamps are ever lit at the same time. So this is 4 independent pulses that you could use for things like feed tapes and piston feed tapes, or anything where you need 4 separate pulses that are never powered at the same time. The most common one, and what I originally figured this out for, was for a piston feed tape. And again, this is probably not original. I'm sure somebody has come up with it before, but I did design this myself. And then a lever on any of the pistons will shut it off. You could also, I couldn't put the lever out here because I wanted to have the lamps, but you could also just power any one of these 4 redstone setups and it would do the same thing. Our third clock type is, I think, basically the most basic piston clock. And what's going to happen when we turn this switch off, that piston is going to extend, and every time it extends, that redstone block loses its connection with this piece of redstone dust, which is what actually powers the piston, and it just continually repeats that loop over and over and over again. Our 5th type of clock is a very simple observer clock, and what happens here is if you face 2 observers at each other, this observer is going to see this observer move in front of it, and it's going to produce a redstone pulse. And at the same time as it's producing a redstone pulse, this observer is going to see this observer having a redstone pulse, and it's going to produce a redstone pulse, and then back and forth, and it's going to produce an alternating pulse. So as you can see here, this pulse is too fast for a redstone lamp to turn on and off. As you can see, this torch here is pulsing, so that means that this block is getting a pulse, but this lamp doesn't have time to update. And if you watch, the piston is also a little bit erratic. It's not smooth. It's kind of not always the same. That is a sticky piston with the redstone block attached to it. I believe in Java this would sometimes drop that sticky piston because of how fast the pulse is, but it doesn't work that way in Bedrock. And then you just move that observer out of the way to turn this one off. So that's a simple observer clock. Here is a use for one of our clocks, and I chose this one because it was a pretty easy one to build and I didn't want this video to be 2 hours long. This is just a basic bone mill powered sugarcane farm. In order to build this simple little sugarcane farm, you're going to start by getting 1 piston, 1 sticky piston, 2 chests, 2 hoppers, a minecart with hopper, 2 rails, 1 water bucket, sugarcane, 7 redstone dust, 1 redstone block, 1 dispenser, 1 redstone torch, 1 redstone repeater, 20 solid blocks of your choice, 29 pieces of glass, any color will work, and 1 lever. And in order to build this, you're going to need a 5 deep, 3 wide by 5 tall space. It's actually 6 because 1 block is going to be below the ground here. It's pretty compact for how much sugarcane it puts out. It's actually going to go faster than that hopper can move it into the chest. So you can't run this indefinitely without a better collection system, so it's faster than 9,000 items per hour. In order to build that, you're going to start by digging out 3 blocks where you want your collection to be. And you're going to place your first chest in the middle of that 3 blocks. Then you're going to come around to this side and place a hopper facing into the back of that chest. Then, oh, I didn't include dirt or grass. You need to add a grass block above that hopper. Place a temporary block one space away from that hopper. Get your 2 rails. Place one there and one up there. Get your minecart with hopper and place it on that block. And then it's going to be glitched into that grass block. Then we are going to dig out, if you want to have the switch where I have it, this block, this block, this block, and this block. So you need to dig out 5 blocks long, 1 block deep, and then 1 block to the side down here on the end. Then you're going to place a solid block there, place a torch on the side of that block. Then we are going to take redstone dust there. We're going to place a repeater next to that hopper so that it doesn't get powered while this is shut off, so it can drain the items out. Redstone dust there and redstone dust there. And that is the underground layer of this farm built. Then we are going to take glass and put it above our chest. So you place glass there above your chest. You place a solid block on each side of that glass. Then you place solid blocks on both sides of your dirt or grass, or you can use sand, whatever you want to grow your sugarcane on. And you got to make sure that minecart's fully nudged into that block. And you place solid blocks on both sides just like that. Then you're going to place a solid block here and a solid block there, and use your water bucket to fill this space here with water so you can place the sugarcane there. And that is the second layer of your farm done. Next, you're going to take glass and surround the block where you're going to plant your sugarcane on these 3 sides here. Plant your sugarcane and then place a redstone dust on the block behind the water. Jump down in here and grab your dispenser, aim right at the edge of that redstone and place your dispenser. Make sure that the face is facing towards your sugarcane. Then you're going to come around on the side here and place 3 solid blocks on that side, 2 solid blocks on that side, and face a hopper into your dispenser. Alright guys, I made a mistake on the first layer. This should not be a solid block. This should actually be a sticky piston on top of that torch there. And it should be facing up. And it will extend as soon as you put it there, because this is currently shut off because there's no lever here. For your third layer, you're going to take your glass blocks on the front again. This time we're going to add a glass block there and a piston on top of the dispenser. Your second chest on top of the hopper. And then you're going to place solid blocks on these 3 spots here. A solid block there, a redstone block on top of the sticky piston, and redstone dust on that spot there. That is your third layer completed. For your fourth layer, you're going to add glass all the way around the front again, as well as behind the spot where your sugarcane is going to grow. Then you're going to add redstone dust to these 2 spots here. That piston will extend, and that is the redstone circuit complete. And for our last layer, all we have to do is cover the top with glass to keep sugarcane from coming out of the top of the farm. And the last thing to do is take our bone meal and add it into this chest here. And you should see that to start to filter down. into that dispenser. And then we just need to add a lever and turn the farm on. This farm is a little bit backwards in that it shuts itself off when the lever is not powered, and you need to add power to this block somehow to turn it on. But all you have to do is flip the lever and it will grow sugarcane and put it in the chest endlessly at a very fast rate. One thing to note, you probably will catch a couple pieces of sugarcane every time you shut this off. So it's not completely lossless, but I mean, come on. It's really not that much loss. And I can't think of a way to stop that if you want to ever shut this farm off. But if you turn it back on before that despawns, it will end up in the collection system. So as long as you don't shut it off, it never loses anything. So it's not lossless. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Again, we just went over some simple redstone clocks that you can use to power farms in your Minecraft world. And the more of a handle you get on these, the more farms you can build as you go on. So these are simple. You just have to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And you might have to watch this a couple of times to really get to understand it. But when you're thinking about it, don't think about this redstone spaghetti that I put out here. This was just for the lamps. You don't need any of that. So as you can see, and it works this way on all of these clocks. I'm just showing you the example on this one. You don't need any of that. The clock is this part right here, and it will move that block around and give you the 4 separate outputs that you can run somewhere else every time. This one here, this is all just demonstration purposes. The actual observer clock is just 2 observers, and if you want to be able to turn it on and off, a sticky piston and some way to power that sticky piston. As you can see, those observers are putting out a pulse. And the nice part about this one is it's silent, except for when you turn it on and off. So if you didn't have that there, it's completely silent, and it will put out that, I think it's a 1-tick pulse alternating side to side forever. I don't think you can actually... Yes, you can't shut this one off with the lever. So the only way to shut this one off that I know of is with the sticky piston. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We will see you guys in the next one. Bye!